Derek, give us some context. I mean, this comes at a time when Boeing could certainly use all the help that it can get. But in terms of these grievances against Airbus and the EU subsidies, it actually goes back a number of years.
It does, Heidi, and this is breaking news on your Bloomberg terminal. The U.S. has proposed some $11 billion worth of duty tariff countermeasures that would hit a whole line of European products, from French Roquefort to British Stilton cheese to the big one is Airbus aircraft. This is in response to what the U.S. says have been EU subsidies for Airbus, including launch subsidies to get some of their biggest and newest and best planes, like the long-distance A350, off the ground. Now, the WTO is supposed to come out in summer with an arbitration ruling on exactly what the amount of these subsidies might be, and the U.S. is planning to sort of trim their list to fit that. In the meantime, there are talks that the U.S. is hoping to conclude to sort of settle here. But if not, this is a clear warning shot that the U.S. stands ready to go with tariffs on Airbus equipment. And there's no question, Heidi, in a very delicate moment for Boeing all around the world, this is a move that could absolutely help the U.S.'s largest plane maker and force some additional difficulties onto Airbus, its chief competitor.
Derek, when would these tariffs start to apply? And you mentioned looking ahead to the WTO this summer. Is there anything that the EU could do in the meantime?
This is a multi-month process. The total amount is going to be subject to whatever the WTO sort of decides. That's the indication that we've gotten from U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer in a statement. So we're sort of going to have to wait until summer to see exactly what the total amount is. But the U.S. is preparing about $11 billion. That's the American estimate of how much this is. Take this for the threat that it's intended, I think I would say. There's clear language in the U.S. statement that we received that they're looking to talks, and so you can take threats of what we'll do if talks fail to mean that there's additional pressure on any talks that may be ongoing as to a resolution to the very long, I think more than a decade now, Airbus-Boeing tariff dispute.
Derek, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there was a time a couple of months ago, or a few months ago, we thought it seemed like Washington was trying to wrap up its grievances on other trade fronts to focus on that set of China-US talks. But now it looks like with these threats against the EU, as well as threats against Mexico rising, a great deal of uncertainty with Japan, all of those issues, they're fighting these trade wars on various fronts again.
Well, I think the fight to make America great again never quite stops, does it? The U.S. has been very clear, the Trump administration in particular, that it views trade imbalances as a problem. This is an administration that has decided to take a very hard line on these sort of things ahead of what invariably becomes a negotiated process. You're seeing that play out with China quite a bit. You know, you have and Mexico as well, and as well as Canada. And so you see this sort of maneuvering where stiff measures get announced as preliminary measures, and then the U.S. says, come talk, let's figure out what we want to do. This is another example of that, but this is certainly a very severe example of that, one that would have major, major implications for trade, particularly in the aerospace moment, again, at a very, very vulnerable moment for Boeing.